All right. So we'll actually start circles on Wednesday. So circles is the next chapter in geometry. This law of sines, and tomorrow we're going to do law of cosines. It's kind of just little bonus material. You will see it again in pre-calculus, but you will not be tested in here on it.
Whoa.
So it's just kind of bonus. I'm calling it bonus material. But it's law of sines, so it's still a little bit of trigonometry. Like, what do you think we would do? Because we've only learned right triangle trigonometry, but is every single triangle in the world a right triangle? No. So what about triangles that aren't right triangles? That's where the law of sines and law of cosines. There is a law of tangents, but I've never done it in my life. But in pre-calculus, you will see law of sines and law of cosines. So that's our objective for the day. We're going to learn the law of sines. So this is what the law of sines is. It looks like a proportion, actually. In a triangle, if I label my sides A, B, and C, in trigonometry, the opposite side is always the lowercase of that angle. So this is angle A. Do you see how the opposite side is lowercase a?
Okay.
And capital B, lowercase b, capital C, lowercase c. So basically, we're just going to set up proportions. The sine of A over the side of A would equal the sine of B over the side of B, which in turn equals the sine of C over the side of C. We would only pick 2 and cross multiply. You can't have 3 when you cross multiply. But they're all proportional to each other. So we only use the law of sines if we have angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side. Those are the only times we use law of sines. So I'm just going to work through some problems with you. I'm going to do the first 6 with you, and then you guys can finish it. And there's only 12 problems, so it should be fine, I'm hoping. So I've got a little joke. How was school today, Nelson? A mean kid asked me if I was a nerd. What'd you say to him? I said I preferred the term smarter than you. It's pretty good, right? I prefer the term smarter than you. Okay. Do you guys ever get asked if you're a nerd? Yeah. I get told I'm a nerd all the time because I teach math.
I'm in football. That doesn't really happen.
Okay, so we are going to do law of sines. So basically it's setting up a proportion and cross multiplying. So I'm going to do, first we're going to start with numbers 1, 4, and 5. And then we'll do 2, 3, and 6. 2, 3, and 6, do you see how one of the angles is x? So we do that just a little bit differently. So I'm going to start with 1, 4, and 5. So I want this side right here. So I've got to set up a proportion. So I'm going to do the sine of 80 over, so it's always the sine of the angle over the opposite side. So that opposite side is x. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
Equals, and then my other angle is 40. Sine 40 over, what's the opposite side? 12. And then we just cross multiply. Well, when you cross multiply, like if I had 4 over 5 equals x over 20. Basically, you do 4 times 20 and divide by the 5, right? Because 5 times x would be 5x, 4 times 20 is 80, and then you divide by 5. So basically, you're multiplying this number and dividing by this number. So that's going to be the same thing here. We're going to multiply these. Do you see that? And divide by that, because it'll be sine 40x. Okay, so let's do, I always start with the number 12 times sine 80. 12 times sine 80. And hit enter. And then, so I just did 12 times sine 80. And then I'm going to divide by the sine 40. Does that make sense? Because it's sine 40x. So divide sine 40.
18.4.
18.4. That would be the side length. 18.4. So you multiply the 2, and then you divide by the one that's across from the x. That's all you do. Now, if I did the sine 80 first times 12, the main thing is if you do sine 80 and then times 12, you have to close that parentheses before you can do times 12. You have to. Okay? So if you do the other one first, just make sure you close that parentheses first. Okay, let's try another one. Let's look at number 4. So I would do the sine of the angle. So sine, which angle do you want to do first?
17.
Sine 17 over, what's the opposite side? X. Equals sine what?
72.
Over
25.
25. And then you cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply these two. 25 times sine 17. Hit enter. And then what do I do? After I multiply these, what do I do next in the calculator?
Divided by sine
Yay.
72.
Good. Divide by sine 72. You get 7.7.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Is it hard? No. You're doing pre-calculus. Do you feel smart?
No.
No. All right. Which one do we want to start with on number 5? Sine what?
89.
Sine 89 over, what's the opposite side? X. And then sine 80 over 12. So I multiply these and divide by that. So 12 times sine 89. Divide by sine 80. Is it hard?
No.
12.2. Okay, okay. 12.2. So that's how you do it if you need to find a side. You multiply those and then divide by that. But if you have to find an angle, do you remember in trigonometry, if you don't know the angle, what button you have? Use the second button. So that's going to come into play on this next part. Okay, let's look at number 2. See if I remember how to do this. All right, so number 2, let's start with sine x, because I don't know the angle. So I'm going to do sine x over, what's the opposite side? 20 equals, and then I'll do the sine 52 over 26. So I'm going to start by multiplying those. And then I'm going to divide by the 26, but we won't be done. So 20 times sine 52. 20 times sine 52. Hit enter. Divide by, I'm going to divide by the 26. Divide by 26, hit enter. That's what sine x equals. So I need to find the angle. So you're going to do second sine, and then instead of typing in that big long decimal, if you hit the second button again and that negative sign has A and S, that takes that answer and plugs it in there. So I'm taking the inverse of that decimal, hit enter. My angle would be 37.3 degrees.
Crazy dog.
You're doing pre-calculus. It's so weird in our math system because we do algebra 1 and then geometry, and then you're going to do algebra 2, which you have to remember your algebra 1, and then you'll do pre-calculus, which you have to remember your geometry. It's kind of weird how we do that in America.
Just wanted to pre-calculus.
All right, so I'm going to start with sine x. What's the opposite side of sine x?
16.
16 And then I'm gonna do sine 84 over 18. So I multiply the 16 times sine 84 and divide by the 18. So 16 times sine 84 divide by 18. And then what do I do after I get that decimal? Good. Second sin, and then I just do second answer. So it takes that answer and plugs it in. You get 62.1 degrees. Okay. All right. And I'll do 7 and 8 with you guys too.
Let's go.
I know. Okay, so sine x over, what's the opposite side? 20, and then sine 60 over 30. So you multiply the 20 times the sine 60, divide by the 30. 20 times sine 60, divide by 30. Now what do I do? Second, sine, second, answer. 35.3 degrees.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So not so bad. I'll look at 7 and 8 with you. I want to see how that's set up on the. So this is triangle. I named it Ace. I tried to name all the triangles. You see how number 8 is bug? Okay, so A, C, E. I need to find angle E. I need to find side CE. And I need to find AC. So that's kind of a lot. How would I find angle E though? What do all the angles in a triangle add up to? So 180 minus 20 and 62. Minus 20 minus 62.
98.
98. Put it in a different color. 98. 98. So let's find side. We'll find side CE first. So I'm going to call it little a because it's across from my capital A.
Crazy.
Yeah. So side CE, I'm going to set up my sine proportion. So I'll do sine 20 over little a, or x. You could even call it x if you wanted. Equals, now I can't use the sine 98 because I don't have anything across from that. Do you guys see that? So I have to use the sine 62 over 40. So we cross multiply 40 times sine 28. I don't have to use any second buttons because I know all the angles. So 40 times sine 20 and then divide by sine 62. 40 times sine 20 divide by sine 62. Did you guys get 15.5? Okay. 15.5. Now let's find side AC. I'm going to call it little e because it's across from capital E. That's how they'll do it in pre-calculus. So I'll do sine 98 over little e. And then let's just use the sine 62 over 40 again. You could use the sine 20 over 15.5, it doesn't matter. So cross multiply 40 times sine 98 and divide by sine 62. Did you get
44.9.
44.9? Good. What do you guys think?
Green.
It's kind of a lot. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. You'll only have 4 more you have to do after we do number 8, though.
Pretty
That-
swag.
That's not too bad. And so then if you haven't done the extra credit and want to do the extra credit, you can do that. Okay, let's look at number 8. So number 8 is triangle bug. So I have to find angle B, side BU, and side BG. So how do I find angle B?
180 minus 73 minus 24.
180 minus 73 minus 24.
Mm-hmm.
83. So let's find side, I guess we could find side BU first, which would be little g. See, I'd be little g. So I'll have sine 24 over little g. And then I can't use the sine 73 because I don't have anything across. So I'd have to do sine 83 over 25. And then we cross multiply 25 times sine 24 and divide by sine 83. 25 times sine 24 divided by sine what? 83. 10.2. And then I gotta find little u. So I would do sine 73 over little u. And then I'll just use the sine 83 over 25 again. So 25 times sine 73 divided by sine 83.
24.1.
What was it?
24.1.
24.1. Okay. All right, 4 more. Remember though, if you don't know the angles, you gotta use that second button. Let's see if there's, that's one like number 10. Let's do number 10 together. You wanna do one more together?
Yeah.
Yeah, might as well. So this is dog, a triangle dog. D-O-G. We'll have to find angle D and angle G. And then side D-O. So which angle do you guys want to find first? Oh, not D, O. Find angle O first. Okay, so I'm going to call it, I'm just going to call it X for now. So I know I can do sine 34 over 85. You guys see that? Sine 34 over 85. And then I'll use sine X over 105. So you multiply the 105 times sine 34. You'll end up dividing by 85, but then you have to use that second button. So 105 times sine 34 divide by, I already forgot, 85. And then once you get that decimal, do you remember you do second sign, second answer. So 43.7 degrees. So then I could find angle G because what do all the angles in a triangle add up to?
180.
So 43.
102.3.
What was it?
102.3.
It's 102.3. That does not look right, does it? That triangle looks weird. But I guess, yeah.
Maybe O is 102.3?
No. It's just the triangle's not drawn to scale. That is definitely not drawn to scale. Now let's find little g over here, which is side DO. So sine 102.3 over little g. And then I'll just use the sine 34 over 85 again. So 85 times sine 102.3 divide by sine 34. 85
48.
2.3
148.
divide by sine 34. Yeah, 148 point. Is that what you guys got?
But isn't that the small side?
Well, nope, not anymore. 148.5. Because the triangle's not drawn to scale, so if that is the biggest angle, this would have to be the biggest side, but this triangle's definitely not drawn to scale.
It's not.
It is not drawn to scale. Sorry about that, guys. So don't be surprised if the others turn out that way. I'm sure your pre-calculus teacher will have your triangles better. Okay, so you just have 3 to do, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.